Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, everybody, and welcome to Monday. Jason, happy Monday morning to you.
Happy Monday morning, man.
You awake? Are you good? Did you get your coffee?
I got it. It's right here. It's number one.
I'm done with my first one. I finished my first one. Waiting on your ass.
Hey, well, listen. What's the old saying? A dollar waiting on a dime.
Happy Monday morning, chat. Hope everybody's doing all right. Welcome to our Monday morning threat brief with Jason and I. This is the second time that we have moved our threat brief to Monday at 9 o'clock. Hopefully you're getting some increased value from the increased frequency and the changes scheduled on Monday morning. Jason and I surely do love it as well. Jason, how's that Amazon outage treating you? Did you guys get popped by that?
So far, our services are up and online, but it's kind of crazy when the first thing you roll out of bed and you see, Yahoo News, every news application that you have on your website, all saying, AWS services are down globally.
Yeah.
And then you're like, holy smokes, what's going on? And then you come to find out, well, it's really only a couple of regions, so.
It's really only a couple of regions, but when there's so much that runs on those regions, like I read a report this morning about it, because obviously, we were tracking it a little bit last night.
Yeah.
Looks like all of US East 1, which if you've done anything, like US East 1 is almost always the default region that you stand everything up in whenever you start new Amazon services anyway.
See, you should have got out of US East 1 a couple of years ago.
Why?
US East 1 is the one that has the problem.
Yes.
I don't know why. But every time Down Detector and everybody else, detect downs, with AWS, it's like US East 1, first bullet point. And so should I got out of there? I mean, it was like, why do you keep coming back for a spanking when, it's going to happen?
Well, we did have our first AI-related outage, right? Because US East 1 going down apparently killed Perplexity. Perplexity was officially down because of that. So AI apparently does you no good if the web service hosting your front end is completely and totally trash.
You're telling me that AI didn't quickly figure out how to morph itself over to another region and automatically deploy and populate itself and turn the generators up and yeah.
I missed that. I missed that in the AGI presentation.
Hey, but it's coming. It's coming.
All right, everybody. Well, this, as you can tell, that we're gonna kick off Monday. I love this, Jason, because we roll out Friday with soapboxes and hot takes, and we roll into Monday with cynicism and hot takes. That's how we start the week, and that's how we end the week. So
they're like bookends.
That's right. That's right. So for those who are new here, thank you very much for taking the time and tuning in with us today. If you're old hat, obviously, thanks for continuing to hang out with us. Real quick, hit the rules. Keep chat free of any racist, sexist, misogynistic, elitist, and otherwise toxic behavior with zero tolerance for that in chat. Yay. We do have moderators in chat. Please give your moderators a massive amount of respect. They are here to keep chat free of any racist, sexist, misogynistic, elitist, and otherwise toxic behavior. They are not here, however, to stifle chat in any way whatsoever. They're here as a way to make sure that your voices get heard. With that being said, Jason and I are going to try to pound through a couple of news-related items this morning that we think are pertinent to this week's cybersecurity, kind of thought process. We do encourage you to ask questions. Ask them frequently, ask them early, ask them on, and we'll try to get them answered in the order in which they were received, or the funniest, depending on how Jason and I are feeling. What?
I was when I seen the headlines of the AWS outage, I thought, man, that nor'easter has really affected our friends down there.
Well, I mean, it is cloud computing after all.
It is cloud computing.
Come on, somebody give me a dad joke for that one. Somebody give me a dad joke for that one.
Oh man. It is Monday.
Cloud computing. That was a good one, man. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah. A nor'easter. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that being said, Jason, I'm going to hit you. I'm going to hit you first because in addition to AWS doing AWS things, I know that it will come as no surprise to you that there has been an uptick of malvertising. But I'm gonna focus it in on two specific areas that apparently were hot topics last week. So first and foremost, TikTok. TikTok has now become an interesting distribution for malvertising. Apparently, there's a couple videos that are making their way around TikTok that are advertising free activation. You remember when you download Windows? I mean, I know you would never do that because you're a fine, upstanding, cybersecurity professional. You'd never illegally download Windows off of a Tor site or anything, or I
don't even know what Tor is.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. But if you happen to be in that space, you would go download Windows from a torrent site, and then you'd go try to find an activation key on yet again more shit sites doing shit illegally out there.
Never did that,
absolutely. And then, lo and behold, as you can imagine, or maybe not, if you've never done that, people hide terrible malware inside of those activation type of programs to activate Windows. I know. Yep. Dishonest criminals. Who would have thought it?
I thought that these were honest, upstanding citizens just trying to make a living.
I just thought they were just trying to do good things for humanity, right?
So TikTok is being exploited again.
So TikTok is being exploited, but in a pretty interesting way. So they're doing these short videos that says free activation of any of these programs, and it's simply a video with a text link. It's not clickable.
Okay.
So and it says in the video, copy and paste this URL to get free activation codes. And by God, people are falling for it. Just like in the old days when they were looking for activation for Windows, people are absolutely falling for it.
See, I thought you were going to tell me, like the TikTok video was like, some sort of, and then, some sort of crazy dance. And then, they moved on to an activation key and then something else happened. But so it's just,
do you know those old jokes that they make of people who are too old for TikTok, Jason?
Yeah.
You're too old for TikTok.
Well, listen, I don't even have TikTok. All I heard was, it was like when my nieces and nephews told me about TikTok and showed me it was out there, I was like, yeah, that's not for me.
That's not for me.
Yeah.
But so TikTok is now being used as another one of those malvertising type campaigns that we typically see with like Google or anything else like that to spread activation malware. In this particular case, it's being used by ClickFix, which is a pretty common ransomware ransomware type of campaign that's out there. Predominantly, targeting. It looks like they're trying to really target, Windows, Microsoft 365, Adobe Premiere, Photoshop, CapCut Pro, Discord Nitro, pretty much like all the usual pay suspects for activation that exist out there. So I bring this up, Jason, because I know one of the things that you're passionate about, right, is making sure that if we can protect people, we can protect enterprises. And TikTok, like it or not, is pretty freaking prevalent. So if you've got folks out there, share this. We have not talked about F5 yet, Nitrotic Deer. I'm sure that that is absolutely coming. Jason and I talked about that a little bit on Friday.
Oh my God.
Share it with your family that not only is TikTok bad because the Chinese are stealing all of your data and going to turn you into Chinese puppets. Just kidding, China, if you're listening.
Yes.
Just have them be warned that not to click on any links or type in any links that they may be seeing inside of TikTok.
Well, somebody once told me way back when I was like a kid, you know, if you go and do nefarious things, you probably are going to find yourself in nefarious places.
Was this before or after Edison invented the light bulb?
I think this was after. I mean, like I at least grew up with a flashlight in my hand,
Okay.
and
Okay.
Swiss Army knife.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, like Jason's right? If you're hanging out on pirate forums, if you're hanging out on torrent websites, if you're hanging out on Tor, if you're hanging out on breach forums, right? If you're hanging around with nefarious people are going to show up.
Yeah,
in your life.
Absolutely. But to those that may not realize it, I think this is where I sat down with a group of individuals last week, and it was a great conversation. We had like an hour and a half on the calendar and ended up going for like several hours because the conversation was so good. But there is, to this, like, standard common users out there in the space, they don't always quite get or quite understand, how easy a campaign can target an average standard user. And they might be like, for most of the folks out in the space that are trying to just get their job done, and they aren't really in tune to looking for cyber threats. And so if they see something, and I think the other side of it is that people are always trying to like cut cost, right? So especially it seems like right now there's like a major kind of, focus in the marketplace to cut cost, optimize, create efficiencies. And so if you could bring to the table, a free version of something, and it seems like almost a lot of software today has got some sort of quote unquote free version. And I think this is where, like, in this space, it creates, well, it kind of looked like a Microsoft campaign, and it kind of looked like, a Microsoft ad. And so to the normal standard user, they would think like, well, maybe Microsoft did give away, a free copy, right? Or
have you ever encountered somebody on your team, not necessarily at BitLift, but maybe at an IT team that you've worked with, but before in the past, or a cyber team? Have you ever encountered somebody bringing a free version of a paid software into an enterprise or trying to cut cost? I have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I wanted you to tell a story. Like, what was that like?
I sat down next to the person and I was like, hang on a second. We believe that there might be Tor traffic on your machine. Oh yeah, I installed it a while ago.
Oh,
and I was, and then they were downloading free copies, copies of software and using it inside of the enterprise. And I'm like, does this seem okay to you?
And they were completely fine with it.
We're getting the software for free.
Was it a tech person, or was it the CEO's admin?
No, it wasn't the CEO's admin. It was a tech-y person that shared dual responsibilities. They shared some responsibilities to help out the IT team, the technical side of things. And they also had responsibilities to help the company with their main product, right?
Yeah.
And so I eventually got to the point that it was like, this is not good. Like, we should be using paid for versions of software that the company wants to consume for its business purposes. And then this is highly illegal.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but if the authorities tracked this down, walked in and handcuffed you, they'd have every right, because what you're doing is highly illegal.
Well, and at one point in time, Microsoft was hardcore on cracking down on licensing.
Yeah. I mean, I remember a while there where it was very, very tight. And well, now they've gotten everybody to go to the cloud,
Yeah.
or it's go to the
Yeah.
cloud, or
Yeah.
you can't have our software. And so now they're getting paid for all their software.
Yeah.
So actually, when you touch on that point, I actually think Microsoft probably sat down and figured out, oh my gosh, there is a whole bunch of software out there that we're not getting paid for.
Wholeheartedly. I was working for a really large company when this first crackdown happened, when they were making the shift from on-prem to cloud, and they made a big deal about they made all of their enterprise accounts inventory all of their Microsoft licensing, and they were offering up like it was very amnesty box-ish, right? Where it's like, hey, we'll give you 5 years, right, to true up, but we need to know how many licenses you've got, type of thing. And there was a massive push of license reconciliation.
And in the background, I think 5 years is like, that's awesome that they gave 5 years of true up, right? I mean, I remember going through that time period as well, but I'm thinking at the same time, they are going to have a deadline and they're going to have an answer to this. So that in 5 years from now, they're going to have, hey, when they rolled out the first initial pieces of Windows Intune, and you get all your licensing from the O365, and the original 365 elements, and they took Exchange essentially off-prem. It's still there. We talked about this couple streams ago, but when Exchange, that was a great part of their business that they were missing out, because Exchange was plastered all over the place and they really weren't getting paid. I remember talking to a Microsoft rep, and he was like, we have figured out that we're probably not getting paid on somewhere between 30 and 50% of our software that's out there.
50%.
Yeah.
And listen, we're talking 50% of like $1 million contracts. Like they already had contracts for $3, $5, $10 million for Microsoft licensing.
Oh yeah.
And they were missing 50% of what they were owed as a part of it. Yeah.
They were walking into enterprises, and some of the enterprise would have paid for licensing, and some enterprises would, the rest of the machines over here in the back corner, don't look at these, would have like non-paid for licensing on them.
A lot of the push to cloud, a lot of the push to the E1 to E5 license. I know they've changed the licensing model now again for the 500th time. A lot of that,
SKUs you can go get.
I firmly believe that a lot of that model was because they all their physical copy software licensing that they were doing had gotten completely and totally out of hand, and they could not keep track of all that licensing.
Yeah. 100%. So, I mean, it's sort of, I would highly recommend, in the organization, use paid for licensing. There's like several reasons. One, it's legal, and you keep yourself out of the crosshairs of, illegal software. But at the same token, like, we need support, and then you need security, and you need patches, and you need all the rest of it. And when you're relying on unpaid for Tor download software, it's like, well, is this the one with the security vulnerabilities? What version is this? And when am I going to get a patch? And so.
Well, and here's, like, I don't want to beat up software licensing too bad, because it is kind of a low hanging fruit and easy target. But like, as we look at modern day SaaSes, and this is something that we deal with at Query quite a lot too. I'm sure you do it at BitLift too, because you guys do a lot of self coding for your platform and whatnot as well. But you have to pay particular attention to how you use open source licensing, right? Is it an MIT model? Is it a shift left model? Like, you have to pay attention to the models that you're using in your 100%. Open source software, because you may be inadvertently locking yourself into a license model that's not necessarily good for you in what it is that you're developing. So like, if that's something that you guys, if you're hearing Jason and I talk about license models for open source software, and you've not researched that, and you're doing a lot of development internally, let's have a conversation, because that is definitely something that like can burn you as an enterprise if you're not paying attention to licensing models.
Yeah, I think that, this whole NPM packages thing, I call it a thing, but the literal breach of NPM packages, and people actually doing their SBOMs and looking through like, hey, what are all our dependencies? This is a great way to start to broach the concept and the conversation around, what all dependencies do we have, and is the licensing all appropriate? If people don't read the T's and C's on software that they're maybe borrowing or getting from another Git repo, and they're like, well, hey, this says it's free, but it might be free for your personal use.
Yes.
But it's probably not free if you're going to commercialize it. And most of them say that they want you to pay some sort of like one-time fee or some sort of monthly subscription, because now when you commercialize it, they know themselves that it's going to open it up to, well, okay, now I got to SSO this, I got to MFA it, I got to keep it current and keep it supported, and all of the rest of it that comes under the enterprise scrutiny of doing good for cybersecurity practices, following NIST guidelines and things like that. You'd think about those packages need to follow those and adhere to them and make sure that it's good stuff. So, you pay for what you get. And if you're not paying for it, well, then don't have your expectations high. But, if you're paying for it, well, then you're going to get what you the good side of it.
I think we could. This is a rabbit hole that could easily be gone down on this topic too. And let me. There's a part that I think that I caution folks against when we talk about building against open source software, which is that as you're doing your SBOMs, there are some open source software projects, as Jason mentioned, that you're not allowed to commercialize. And so, like, if you put a component, if you build, Nitronic Deer's greatest GRC platform, and you build it with Agno 2.0, Agno 2.0's licensing model, means that you're now commercializing their software. You have to adhere to their commercial agreements. If you try to fork something, then you have to give them credit. Or if you try to fork something, you may have to push those changes back upstream for their repos and their design considerations. All of those things are important to you. And if you've got a 10,000 package SBOM, right? And this doesn't account also if you go N+1, N+2, N+3 in the depths of your SBOM. So it's not just about running the SBOM looking for vulnerabilities. Have you run your SBOM and pulled your licensing models for each of the components inside your SBOM? And I venture to say chances are probably not, right? Probably not. But have you also looked at the licensing on there as well?
Yeah. So that's a we could probably spend a whole time on that. There's a lot of caveats there. One thing I wanted to I know you've got a topic to talk about, but I wanted to kind of come back around on it's been a bit since we talked about ransomware.
Yeah.
There's a sort of a new push that people might not be understanding that it's happening, but there's a group of three, what would you call them? I want to say gang because I was a group of three groups, I guess, have gotten together, and they are sharing infrastructure, and they're sharing code, and they're sharing.
So we've got a merger in the ransomware gang space, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah. Thank you for summarizing. I'm still, still getting the first cup of coffee down. So
I'm trying to bring it back to business terms.
Yeah, business terms here. Thank you for helping me out this morning. But the cartel, as they call themselves, right, is coordinating, and they are coordinating themselves as an alliance. There's the word that I was looking for, alliance, right? And so they're sharing their infrastructure, they're sharing their tools and things like that, and they are bringing Lockbit 5 back out, right?
Lockbit was nasty.
It was nasty. So
one of the more successful ransomware kits, y'all. One of the more successful ransomware kits out there.
Yes, and that's why I'm bringing this up is because if you sort of like look at the landscape lately, we haven't been talking about ransomware. If you look back to the last 9 months, very heavily, because the actual attacks and you and I mean, if you think about like the last 9-10 months, right? We're halfway through October. The last 9 or 10 months has been a lot of other types of attacks. Mm-hmm. it has not been a terrible uptick in
A
ransomware.
lot of authentication attacks.
A lot of authentication attacks.
Yeah.
A lot of zero click and
Yeah.
0 day. We think of like going back in the summertime. We were discussing the API and the NPM software package issues. That was like 6-8 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
So, but we're sort of, unfortunately, you can kind of feel it when these things are happening is these groups of people are reorganizing themselves. And if you look at this, a good, 8, 9, 10 months to reorganize. And then the kind of the chatter on the wire is that there's 3 of them that are coming together to create this Lockbit 5. And it's Dragon Force, Quillen is another one. And they are, what I'm reading on it and looking at it, it potentially could be an interesting, devastating, version of Lockbit.
So I imagine what the team at BitLift is doing, right? You guys are out there, and I say this so that we can kind of like share this with folks who are saying like, okay, cool, this is cool, Jason, but what do I do from here? You guys are out there researching old Lockbit TTPs, old Lockbit infrastructure. You guys are trying to make sure that you've got, a lot of your detections and your hunt capabilities and everything spun up so that you're able to refresh kind of like some of those old TTPs that you haven't seen in a while.
Yeah. Yep. And we are. And the other thing is we are stressing to our customers that a couple of things. EDR coverage has got to be as 100% as it possibly can be.
Well, so you rail on EDR quite a lot on this show. I'm not going to let you get away with this. So like when you say that you're going to increase EDR coverage and at the same time you'll bash CrowdStrike in the next sentence, what do you mean by that?
Well, the reason why I bash CrowdStrike, or I was thinking about this morning. So I want to point out to people, and I think we talked about this before. If you look at CrowdStrike has their own set of problems, right? Yeah. And I'm not. I think that they're a good company. They run a pretty solid EDR.
Did it hurt you to say that? Are you getting a little sick to your stomach as you mentioned this?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I should take a drink of coffee here. But what I'm saying here is that if you think about it, the reason why they've had their issues lately is because their software doesn't look at those issues, right? It doesn't look for NPM package problems. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look for the authentication problems. It doesn't look for, if you look at all of the challenges that CrowdStrike has had lately, and they're a cybersecurity company themselves, their engine and their software was never designed and architected to look for those challenges, those problems. And this is where, this is the problem that people make the mistake with, is they say, oh, I have CrowdStrike, I have Cloudflare, I have SentinelOne, or I have the Microsoft Defender and the whole suite. The problem that's going to catch you when you are not looking is those software packages were made to solve a particular set of problems, right? They weren't made to solve all the problems.
Yeah.
They weren't made to, look at API security. They weren't made to check your NPM packages and your dependencies. And they necessarily weren't made to go over here and be checking, OAuth and
that's
tokens.
Right. But Jason, that's why CrowdStrike's going to acquire a company to do that and charge me an extra $25,000, or 25% on my license cost anyway, right? Or aren't you just advocating as a cybersecurity industry for me to go buy yet another tool that's going to provide that coverage for me?
Well, and therein lies, that is the truth. this is why you have a screwdriver that is not just a universal screwdriver. You've got a flathead, a Phillips, a star, whatever they call that other one. But you know what I'm saying? There's not just one tool that solves all problems.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, CrowdStrike will probably continue to buy up companies, but then it's going to be bolt on. It's not going to be, built from the foundation up. And so the thing that I would just caution people is like going and buying a software product and think that it solves all of my problems, or it's looking for all of my problems is just false. So if you come back to this, and the reason why I'm emphasizing EDR is because we still run across people that don't have EDR deployed across 100% of the environment, and or they still have it turned on to default mode. Mm-hmm. They haven't gone in and actually spent time and thought about, hey, what are the EDR rules that need to be in place here? Is the default policy on these agents good enough? And in cybersecurity, good enough will never, you know what I mean? Like, you need to go in there and spend time and understand it. And so, yes, I share all this information about the new latest ransomware, but MFA coverage has got to be near 100%. EDR coverage has got to be near 100%, if not 100%, right? And then the conversations that we're having inside of BitLift is talking about egress and ingress control. Mm-hmm. You need to know what data and traffic is flowing in and out of your organization. And people like, that's a daunting task.
Yeah.
Do you know where all of my ingress and egress points are? I said, no, but you should,
Oh, but how do you have that conversation with a remote company where everybody's got their own laptop and there's 250,000 egress points across the globe?
That sounds like a good time to me. That sounds like you should, start to work on, funneling that down and, thinking about your architecture and how you want to make sure that traffic is flowing in and out of your organization so that you can protect the company.
Wow. This is an interesting comment from Nitronic Deer. Ransomware desensitized, and fatigue. Do you think we're desensitized or tired of ransomware?
I think there's some legitimacy to that, right? I mean, when you talk about cybersecurity, almost everybody defaults to ransomware, as like the thing here, because it's been the most successful.
Speaking of most successful, I was shocked at a dinner or lunch conversation I had on Saturday. So on Saturday, we're a member of the Carolina Exotic Car Club down here in Raleigh, and they were doing a convoy drive from Raleigh to Pinehurst for lunch. And that's a story I got to tell you, in and of itself is doing an exotic car convoy to Pinehurst. But we were sitting at dinner with I can't give the name of the company, but he's one of the C-levels at a software company that handles automotive software pretty globally. And he was telling us that the software outage that happened last year in the automotive industry that stopped them from processing a lot of new auto sales was a result of ransomware. He was giving me the juice on everything that had happened internal to the company about that. And he was talking about how, it was just a phishing email. They had just phished somebody, and they had paid $25 million in ransom to that company. And I don't think we ever heard that on the news, that there was confirmation as to whether that ransom had ever been paid or not. But he was saying that, they paid $25 million in ransom. And I think that right there, there's a case where that's a big-ass company, global, Fortune, right? Affected thousands of businesses at a crippling level.
Yeah.
Made the news for 5.5 seconds, and they ended up paying a ransom to get everything back.
So that means to tell you,
If criminals know you're going to pay,
Hey, yep.
Why do anything else?
Yeah. Listen, this is borderline. I think about this often because I think I said this before, is that the cybersecurity insurance industry has ruined us from this perspective. If I knew that the insurance company was going to pay out and there was a guaranteed amount, if I hit your car in such a way, backed into it, hit it at like the quarter side panel, or hit it in this sort of way, and I knew that they were going to pay out an amount, right, to me, you would see these types of things increase.
Absolutely.
It is like an encouragement almost to the criminals to know that most organizations today now have cybersecurity insurance.
Yeah.
Right. And if you do get ransomed or something takes place, and everybody, like we get these requests where like, well, we want you to have $5 million of coverage.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? Like, can you tell me like what's your reasoning when our contract with you is like nowhere near $5 million,
right,
even a year? And so why do we need to have a $5 million coverage? We are not going to back you, right? You need to back yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's just kind of funny that people think that, okay, well, we might do okay at cybersecurity, but we might not do great.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to offset the risk with more coverage, right? It's like getting into the car and I think I'm going to drive okay today. I'm not going to do so great. So I'm going to phone call my insurance company. I'm going to raise my coverage on my car. and I'm going to even maybe reduce my premium, or not my premium, but my copay, because the likelihood is higher today.
I was thinking more along the lines of like, yeah, you go to the dealership, dealership tells you, yeah, these brakes, they're not great. You've got like 1,000-mile stopping distance on these brakes. Like, this could be pretty bad for you if you ever, and you're like, hey, USAA, can I increase my insurance coverage so that I don't have to fix these brakes? Yeah, right. Sure. We'll do that. Absolutely.
That is 100% spot on, my friend. I love that analogy. I hope we short clip that.
Okay. If anybody catches that, everybody clip that one and put that one out there. There's cyber insurance in a nutshell right there.
That's it. And if you are struggling to get cybersecurity stuff happening in your environment with your management and C-levels, take and share that clip with them, because that's exactly the analogy that is very fitting.
Right.
So,
right. All right. So ransomware's back on the table.
Ransomware's back. There's a couple things before we move on.
Yeah.
What I want,
because we got to talk about F5. We got to talk about F5.
Yeah. So, the ransomware professionals here, like I said, they rule like a cartel. This Lockbit 5 is sort of rebranding. They're sharing their resources with other groups. We're expecting some sort of kind of like copy paste TTPs to happen here. Mm-hmm. And then the biggest thing that I would encourage you guys to do is look for new egress domains. So have your systems, if you can do this. We have methodologies in place where we can look at outbound traffic and make sure that if we see this domain for the first time ever, right, it can alert you.
Yeah.
And you might think, well, gosh, that's tedious, but you can tweet, two can tween.
Somebody clip that one and post that one on the BitLift site.
Yeah. We're having a good. See, these Monday mornings are really getting me.
Two can tween, y'all. Two can tween.
Yeah, put that on TikTok. But you can fine tune, those.
Can you use AI to automate it?
You can use AI to automate it. I would highly recommend it. You want to talk about F5 now?
Yes, yes. Let's talk about F5 a little bit. So obviously the big news of the week last week was F5. I'll read just the TLDR of the F5 stuff, then Jason and I will get into it. Right. So, Internet security nonprofit Shadow Server Foundation found more than 266,000 F5 big IP instances were exposed online after the security breach disclosed by the cybersecurity company F5 this week. Nation-state hackers breached the network, stole source code, including undisclosed big IP security flaws. Gee, I wonder where they got that from.
Oh, boy.
I know. And then F5 then went on to issue, I've got a note here, 44 critical patches for vulnerabilities as a result of this. Big IP, F5 OS, Big IP Next for Kubernetes, Big IQ, all their APM clients.
So I gotta know.
Right. It never gets any easier for the let it wash over you. Let it wash over you.
I'm gonna need a cold rag here soon. But the reality is like, here's my question. Did they know about the vulnerabilities before the attack? And then the attack caused them to release the announcements because they were going to be like, holy smokes, we're going to get caught with our pants down here, so we should go ahead and announce this really quick.
Your cynicism regarding big company disclosures never ceases to amaze me.
Because I think it's true.
Well, as somebody who's been on the side of a nation state actor, I can tell you the reason it's funny to me is because there is some validity to what Jason says is true, Chad. I think I've told stories before where we were sitting there having a nice normal day at the NSA, and we'll get a call from a major antivirus vendor. This is obviously when a lot of the antivirus stuff was. This was pre-Carbon Black days when this was happening, right? We would get a call from a major antivirus vendor, and the major antivirus vendor would say, "Y'all, you got 48 hours. You got 48 hours, and we're publishing our findings. Here's what we know. We know it's you. We know you can't confirm it's you. We know it's you. You got 48 hours."
Yep.
And we would go out there and we would replace every implant that was about to be exposed before we got dipped on.
Yep.
So there's some truth to what Jason says. There's some truth to it.
And that's why, like, you continue to hear me just trying to beat the drum and really push on you guys that you need to be looking for things that aren't even announced yet. And if somebody looks at you kind of cross-eyed, like, why are we worried about that? Like, I don't understand that. I remember this conversation that I had. It was a while back. It was probably like 5 years ago, and it stuck with me. And the person asked, like, why we were so concerned about, this security aspect and angle, right? We haven't had any problems from that aspect and angle. Why are we worried about that? Mm-hmm. And I said, because it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Like, why won't we apply the good security hygiene that we're rolling out here, and here? Why wouldn't we apply it and roll it out and have the conversation across everything, right? Everything from API to VPN to our endpoints that, and the person said, well, we don't have the time, money, and resources for that. We need to focus on what we know we're going to get attacked by. And I said, well, you don't know what you're going to get attacked by. Like, there's no crystal ball. Like, oh, I'm going to get attacked by email today. The likelihood is high. Right? But, and so I don't even know where this individual is today, but it was like this conversation, like, I can't believe we're having this. This person is very close-minded and only looks at the announcements and says, okay, that's where the attack is coming from.
Yeah.
That's very much, I'm like, I wanted to say this and I didn't. And so I didn't say this, but I wanted to say, do you drive down the road looking in the rearview mirror? Like, because that's what you're doing. You're only talking about what has happened.
And here's where I think I want to pull what Jason's saying and talk about it in a more practical sense. F5 disclosed that there's a really strong likelihood that this breach has been going. They've admitted it's been going on for well over a year. That they've discovered it well over a year is for a Chinese-based group that they've termed Brickstorm. Google wrote about it back in April 2024. Ironically, I actually have a threat hunting guide up on Query's website for threat hunting Brickstorm indicators. I think this speaks to we've gotten so used to and accepting that it's okay for us to just respond to cyber threats. And so as a result, that's where you get into the mindset that Jason's talking about, which is, well, I'm just going to respond to what's happening to me today. When in reality, response should be the minority of what it is that you're doing, especially in this day and age where attacks are moving so fast. And you've got to start, I know we've talked about as an industry, I know we've talked about as an industry being more proactive and being more forward leaning in terms of how we do, our cybersecurity jobs. But this attack, we knew in April from a Google report that there was a large-scale nation-state actor out there targeting big organizations.
Yeah.
And an organization like F5 should have, I would like to believe, I don't have any inside information one way or the other, been going, holy shit, this could apply to us. We should go look for this.
Yeah. And so here's my question for you, Neal. Will anybody be able to fight against a nation state group, hacker group?
No. And I don't think I would ever advocate that any enterprise position themselves to fight against a nation state. You are going to get popped. If a nation state looks at you, you're effed. You're effed. You're going to get owned. Hands down.
Yep.
But what I would like to think about is there is a delta gap that you can control. Right? Which is when you have knowledge and you take knowledge and you apply it to actually looking. Here's what I can tell you. We didn't put our best malware on every computer. We didn't put our most sneakiest TTPs on every computer we popped.
Mm-hmm.
Because we save those for the ones that we don't want to get burned if they do get caught.
Yep.
And so I say all that to say, I'm sure we're not the only nation state that abides by that when we put, malware and whatnot on it, when we execute TTPs on target. And so depending on the type of company you are, depending on what it is, there's a likelihood, 6 out of 10 maybe, 7 out of 10 maybe, that you could indeed catch APTs if you know what it is you're looking for.
Yeah. and if you think about that, like, just double down on like going after the stuff that you should be doing.
Yeah.
I believe that this is where like sort of the 80-20 rule plays. Like, you need MFA. You're going to keep out the small groups, right? The kind of criminal hacker rings.
There are entry level APT groups, y'all. Like, make no mistake about it. Like TAO has the entry level operators, and they have the master exploiters.
Yep.
There are entry level operators that operate entry level missions.
Yeah. So, to like think about, you need to be doing things that cover and secure the environment. But I think your, organization, I know for a fact, if nation state wanted to get a hold of us, we would have no chance.
Right.
And that's not, that's me being just, wise to
just a realist.
It's just realist. Like, that's what's going to happen. And the reality is like, because, so if you take this, right, smaller groups have gotten into bigger companies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Very successfully, and expose them. And so what I would say is we just need to take this stuff seriously. And organizations need to like say, okay, we're gonna go with like a 90-10, 80-20, and we're gonna you're not going to get cybersecurity completely 100% buttoned up. I'm sad to say it.
Yes.
But we are in a space that is evolving so quickly. That was one of the reasons why, in the driving force behind us going to a weekly live stream, is because it seemed like 2 weeks of information.
Yeah.
We're talking about stuff. One of the things I wanted to point out here, and it's just a data point, and you might be like, wah, wah, wah.
This is the F5 one still, right?
No, this is off F5 for a second. But I want to point something out to you guys. It's a stat. Microsoft Patch Tuesday, October 14th, patched 6 0 days fixed and 172 flaws in total that encompassed the last 30 days of time.
Did you say 6 0 days?
6 0 days fixed and 172 flaws. Okay.
I think I said this last week or the last time we streamed, or maybe I said it Friday during Tea with a Hacker. There have been more 0 days in the last couple of years than my entire time doing offensive cyber at the agency.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I'm just trying to highlight here too, and ring this bell on, is this like, listen, we need to understand right now in the software that we use and consume, in the systems that we're on, we have to assume this is a safe assumption. This isn't like the saying about assumptions, and you have to assume that there are 0 days that are unknown quite yet, and there are flaws in the system. And so you have to protect yourself in a way that I need to be looking for everything and anything, and I need to be questioning things that might not make sense.
I think we continue to call it like assume breach. You have to assume that you are already owned.
Yeah, 100%. And the evidence of that is just in this last 30 days of stats.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's an important stat. You said 6 0 days. The last Microsoft patch, the one that was 14, so that's 7 days ago.
Yes.
A patch that encompassed 30 days of Microsoft technology, 6 0 days.
Yep. And 172 flaws. So again, it's just this high level stat. You could go and do, you could go and do, your research on it, but the reality is that's it, right? I mean, one of the interesting things I was reading about is, if you're at all interested in this, the Apple ecosystem is offering a bug bounty. Some of you may know this, some of you may not, but they are specifically offering a bug bounty for zero-click and other what they call stackable bonuses. And so if you find bugs in the Apple ecosystem, the iOS, macOS, so on and so forth, they will pay you a bug bounty.
But I think that like here's I see Fraser's question here. I want to piggyback on what Jason's saying. I think this is different than HackerOne, BugCrowd. Like, these are companies. Yeah. These are like, I think you should take these bug bounties seriously, chat. If you are in the bug bounty space, like, you know me, I'm all for going to work on HackerOne to get into the industry, to get used to bug bounty programs. But if you've been in that ecosystem, or you have an affinity to want to do bug bounties, you should be going straight to Apple, Microsoft, Google, Anthropic, OpenAI. You should be going directly to those companies, because chances are those big companies have started to put out big bug bounty programs that will pay out big money for finding legit stuff.
Yeah. And the one article that I came across, and now I didn't go over, so disclosure here, I didn't go over to the Apple website and check this, but one of the notes that I came across was that they were offering up to $2 million specifically for zero-click RCE. So, it's obviously, if you find this, that's like a diamond in the rough.
Yep.
If you find a diamond in the rough and it's true and you prove it to them and they're like, okay, yeah, I mean, they could probably pay you up to $2 million for it. And then hopefully you'll invite Neal and I out on your boat and we can hang out with you and glad to meet you.
All right, last one. This one came in from Frazier. I talked a little bit about this on Friday. Jason, this one may have slipped under your threshold for news, but Frazier says, what do you guys think about the new attack vector about built-in malware and crypto contracts? For those who are curious about what Frazier's talking about, there was a disclosure that somebody had basically started to hide started hiding malware into Ethereum contracts. And what I've always told people is, like, if you, again, we did this 3 years ago, I think, Frazier, when we were trying to, highlight, crypto as a cybersecurity issue, not just like a crypto bro issue, right? Type thing. If Ethereum contracts, Solana contracts, a lot of these programmatic contracts are just code execution platforms, right? They just run code to facilitate the smart contract operation that exists inside of there, right? And so it was only a matter of time before somebody put an actual malware into a contract, whether it was Ethereum or Solana, whatever the case was. It's not obfuscated. It's not, here's the thing. That contract is being stored on the blockchain. So it's not like it's not known that malware is out there. I don't really think this is some type of advanced malware by any stretch of the imagination. I think that this is pretty low level at the end of the day, and I don't think it's any different from the multi-sig attack that we had seen a couple months ago. Where they had basically used a JavaScript in the ransomware to hijack a multi-sig from an Ethereum contract and steal hundreds of millions of dollars in crypto there. So, wow. It's interesting. It's cool to see. I don't think it's innovative by any stretch of the imagination. It does continue to highlight. Chris, I think you and I talked about this. Jason, do you got to run to a meeting? Because I want to hit you with a hot seat real quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I had posed the hot seat question. I posed a hot take question to a private Discord that I've got with a tight group of advisors. And I know that this is going to hit very close to you.
Okay.
But I had made a hot take statement that pen testing was dead.
Oh. For all of you that might be, regulators and auditors, in some way, I would agree with you. And I'm not just agreeing with you to agree with you. This is one of those topics that I think are interesting, that it's like, we've done this for so long, and then we've gotten to this point where, like, why are we doing this anymore? And if you think about it, the whole pen testing aspect really came from the days of where everything was sort of located in one spot, and you had this, you had the big thick stone walls and a moat, around everything, right?
Yeah.
And I want to see if you can penetrate, our fortress, right? That's sort of gone now. And I would urge come up with something new, call it something new, because it's certainly not like pen testing anymore. I would believe that the context of which we believe pen testing and all of the audits and certifications that relied on that context, that aspect is dead.
Wouldn't you also agree that a lot of the, like, we need to shift way more left. We need to shift way more left into the dev space
Left of boom, we're talking about here, right? I mean,
Very left of boom. Very
yeah,
left of boom.
100%. Here's the thing is being in BitLift, we know and we tell customers that, doing log management and doing monitoring and detection and all of that is great. And it's what we believe in our heart. You should be doing this, but it takes, no lie, the truth of the matter, to get logs from Microsoft at a minimum is 5 minutes.
It's not real time. It'll never be real time. Chad, I want you to hear this. Marketing will tell you, every SIM vendor in the world will tell you real time. It's never real time.
It can't be. It can't be, because the log has to occur. It has to be written somewhere. It has to be offered up to another service, right? That can then offer it up to share it with you, whatever it may be. So from a firewall to AWS to Azure to Microsoft O365, right? So the absolute minimum on the greatest day, when the stars, moon, and the sunshine and everything's aligned, and you get the log in 5 minutes from when it was generated, that is doing good, right? Mm-hmm. But what you're saying is reactive. Like we need the log generated, we need the activity to happen, and then we can respond.
This is right of boom, chat. This is what Jason's talking about. That's right of boom.
And so when you talk about, we absolutely need to start thinking about and getting serious about getting left of boom quicker. Mm-hmm. And this gets into the conversations like you and I were having around Microsoft configuration management, mm-hmm. and getting into the sort of the bowels of the system and talking about and deep diving into configuration, mm-hmm. and what is happening on our configs, mm-hmm. and being able to assess our configurations in near real time and understand is our configuration of our system secure or not, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously, you can't have everything closed, right? Let's
just be 100% clear. We're not talking about a paper exercise. We're not talking about a checkbox exercise. We're talking about something that is tactical and technical, worthy of accomplishing, and it happens consistently, regularly, in real time.
Yeah. And I've got some friends at another company, and there's this new concept coming in that is called attack surface management. You've heard of it, Neal. But
I was going to say it's hardly new. People have been trying to push that shit for years.
But what I would say is think about it. Attack surface management isn't just technology.
Yeah.
It's also not just limited to software. It's not just limited to people. Like attack surface management encompasses people, software, technology, your vendors. Like, what is our attack surface to the company that you represent, and how do you manage it?
And let me sprinkle some cynicism across what Jason is saying, right? The modern marketing around attack surface management has failed miserably, right? Because vulnerability management was how it started. It consisted of your tenables, Nessus, Qualys, right? Everything, Nexpose, everything else across the board. That wasn't sexy enough, so they came to attack surface management, which was like, hey, let's not just talk about running a vulnerability scan. Let's check your exposed surfaces. Let's check your exposed people, blah, 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 blah. Attack surface management, by Gartner's definition, didn't get enough money in the marketplace, and so now they're calling it CTEM, Cyber Threat Exposure Management. That's the new Gartner technology. So all we're talking about. So we're trying to shed light on how the industry pulls the wool over your eyes on terms like pen testing, red teaming, attack surface management, CTEM, blah, 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 blah. The reason that they're changing these terminologies is because the threat landscape around us has changed. But let me make something expressly clear. The technologies actually aren't changing. They're still the same old technologies. They're trying to fit into new squarer holes, and they're not doing anything different. And that's the problem that we're seeing, is that Gartner, Forrester, these fucking analyst companies, they continue to move the goalpost on what it's called, but the companies fitting into these buckets aren't changing their products at all.
They can't change that fast. You think about it, something moves from category A to category B. The best question is can you show me? It's been like 6 months. Did you
Yeah.
guys rebuild your whole software package in the last 6 months? Oh, well, so and so came up with that. It was like, well, how long have they been in the industry?
Yeah.
And what kind of hands-on experience do they have?
Yeah.
You said something that think about this. I actually believe, and I'm going to throw you in the hot seat for the moment.
Oh, I like this.
Do you believe vulnerability management is dead? And the reason why I posed the question is because I was having a great conversation with somebody that said, listen, when we discover that there's a vulnerability in a piece of software, what we do is we kill the container or we kill the machine at set date and time, and we spin up a brand new instance with the latest version of that software that doesn't have the vulnerability in it anymore. And we figured out that the time, the money, the effort, the resources, and everything else, the software, the licensing, and everything else, we might as well just stand up a new instance of it, whether it's on containers or a VM or whatever the case may be. So is vulnerability management dead?
I think we have never had good management of vulnerabilities. Like I think one of the things that gets lost in our industry. So I'm going to say if you're putting me on the spot for a yes or no, I'm going to say no, but I'm going to say that we've never had good and consistent management of vulnerabilities.
And let me clarify. What I mean about vulnerability management is like the old context. Like, hey, I'm going to run a Tenable, a Nessus, a Qualys, a scanner.
Yeah.
And I'm going to continuously be scanning over my environment. And then somebody's going to be dedicated to applying the patches, getting these maintenance windows, and doing all these things, right?
Yes.
And the person I was talking to about this, we were talking, and he's like, listen, we've figured out that we saved probably somewhere around 30 or 40% just by our best guess estimates of like, and it's all push to code.
Yeah.
Right. So like, we're not having to have somebody update an old system with a patch and then testing it and figuring out if it works and so on and so forth, when we're just rolling out a brand new piece of software.
I think that the thing that has failed about the vulnerability space is that we're unwilling to admit that not all vulnerabilities are created equal. We are not willing to admit that it's okay for some vulnerabilities not to be patched.
Yeah.
We're not willing to be realistic on the workloads of the teams and put prioritized data in front of them that focuses their efforts on the most important vulnerabilities. And that's because we as an industry can't coalesce on the most important vulnerabilities. Regulators don't even know whether 1 million is the right number of vulnerabilities or not. And I've told this story before about having a conversation with the FFIEC where they're saying, oh, well, 1 million's too many. And you're like, well, how many should I have? And they're like, well, we don't know. We just know 1 million is too much. We can't be
some sort of ratio.
Right. We can't be realistic as an industry. And so I would say that we have failed the management piece of vulnerabilities, of vulnerability management. We have failed to manage, and it's because we're afraid. And I'm gonna bring you back to your insurance question. We're afraid to say, I'm not going to patch that vulnerability because there's no public exploit out there, because it's not being actively exploited in the wild, because we're afraid that next week that perspective will change and we'll get popped and we will have made a decision.
Yeah.
But we're also afraid at the same time to say, I need more money so that I can continue to monitor and look for when that position changes, so that we can then prioritize that vulnerability. We're afraid to have a conversation with IT that says, I know last week I told you not to pay attention to that vulnerability, but this week the conditions around that vulnerability have changed, and so now you need to prioritize that vulnerability. We're afraid of the active management of cybersecurity. I fully believe that. I think enterprises are afraid of an active management of cybersecurity.
Yeah. Yeah, and you bring up, like, that is 100% true. Like, the environment that we live in today in cybersecurity isn't like the security folks or IT folks having whiplash talking to management. It's like between last week and this week, the situation changed.
Yeah.
And it would be no different than if this conversation was having on like the sales side of the house of the company. Like, between last week, our competitor announced this week, we need to announce something in order to stay competitive, right? And when we get into these situations inside of cybersecurity, we're trying to like literally keep the company alive and safe and operating, and it takes money and people to do that.
Yeah.
In some sort of way, and tools.
Yeah.
Don't forget your 5 different subscriptions to your favorite AI tools.
I think it's safe to end on this note, but I'll kind of capstone it with this. Jason and I have frequently talked about the military mindset that kind of comes into how we run cybersecurity. Cybersecurity did start as a function of IT. Cybersecurity did start as an additional duty of IT. It did start as hey, we really should have complicated passwords. Okay, put in a policy, have complicated passwords. Yay, we're secure. Hey, we really should patch every Thursday. Cool, let's patch every Thursday. It became a project-based mentality. That's how it started, because the world didn't move that fast when we first started in cybersecurity. We are now at war. Yeah. We are now at war. The adversary, as we have shown, is at our doorstep daily. And that's not fear-mongering. That's not FUD. That's not job security for the sake of job security. If you drop your defenses for 1 second, you could be popped.
Yeah. I have been saying that we were in a code war since 2016.
Yep.
And it's because when I had this realization moment and sat back, I think I was in the car driving, and I was just thinking about the landscape of things. And nobody at the time really assessed, like, we're at war. But here we are. We are a bunch of private companies defending ourselves, that nobody started the company and said, we need a Department of War in a manufacturing company.
Yeah.
Or a water softening company.
Yep.
Or a heating and cooling company.
Yep.
But all of a sudden, though, that's the reality, is the cybersecurity team or IT team, if that's a shared hat, has now become a Department of War, and they are trying to keep the defenses up, and they are trying to keep their adversaries out.
Here's one bold statement that I'll make. Just came to me as we're talking about it, so I'll let this one marinate. See how chat feels about this one. I used to advocate wholeheartedly that the CISO should report to the CEO. I thought it was a disservice that they report to the CIO. I thought it was an even more disservice that they report to chief legal. I'm starting to feel that if we have to bury security plus one deep from the CEO, I'm starting to develop a mindset that it needs to be under an operations team. It needs to be under a part of the organization whose business model is about day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
Because security is a day-to-day function. It's not a project function. It's not a compliance function. It's not a regulatory function. It is an operations focus.
Yes. And any CISO or information security, you fill in the blank, whether it's the information security officer or you're a security engineer, security analyst, anybody on the security side of the house should not be reporting to the CFO.
Right.
Right. Like, that is, in organizations where I've come across where they report to the CFO, I'm like, this organization doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wondering to myself the whole entire time, because the CFO does not know a lick thing about how to run and operate the IT department and the security department.
Yeah.
Who you would not see over in the NSA, you would not see the finance team running and operating and managing the cybersecurity operations, or even different. If we're fighting a war, a physical war, you would not see the finance team managing the troops and the operations of the troops.
No,
so
absolutely
if
not.
Anybody says we're not fighting a war, they do not understand. They are ignorant. And they are ignorant in the sense that they lack the information to completely understand what we are doing every day, day in and day out.
Absolutely. I realize that was a soapbox chat. Thanks, Jason, for staying over on that one a little while. That's definitely, I think that's a mindset that I think is super important for us to talk about, right? Jason, real quick chat. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to transition to a co-working stream. If you've not participated in a co-working stream, do ask you to stick around and hang out for a co-working stream after this. Jason, any parting words from you, sir?
Yeah, just as you look out at the ransomware cartel, Oracle EBS exploit, tool chains abuse, the sort of macro trends, right? And your patching priorities and your zero clicks and your identity, egress and ingress and all of the things, just encourage you to have an awesome week.
Yeah.
Enjoy the cybersecurity ride that you're on and your career. It's what you have chosen to do, and I would encourage you to enjoy it. Let me tell you, there isn't always going to be sunshine and rainbow moments. Okay. But if you do enjoy it, you're going to work through those tough moments. There are going to be enjoyable moments, but I believe in a balance of both. And with that, I bid you an awesome week ahead.
Jason, I'm going to send you on. I'm going to check the chat. We'll see you next week for the Cyber Threat Brief next Monday.
Take care.
Chat, awesome chat with Jason. Thanks for tuning in for Cyber Threat Brief. We're going to transition to a co-working stream. Real quick, I just want to brag for a second. Third place yet again on the tournament yesterday. It was a hard fought. Only 2 strokes separated me from first place. I know exactly which 2 holes screwed me over on that. But with that being said, thanks for tuning in to today's Cyber Threat Brief. We're going to put on some music. We're going to transition to a co-working stream. And let's get some shit done for this Monday.